I went in for a vasectomy with my wife right by my side. As the anesthesia began to take hold, I remained in a state of twilight, semi-conscious, aware of my surroundings but physically frozen, unable to move a muscle. Through the haze of my blurred vision, I saw the doctor slide a thick manila envelope to the nurse and whisper urgently, "Give this to his wife. Don't let him or anyone else see it." My blood ran cold, freezing faster than the anesthesia. Something was terribly wrong. I lay there, trapped in my own body, pretending to be fully unconscious, while my heart pounded against my ribs like a trapped bird. 30 minutes later, I discovered what was inside that envelope. I packed my belongings immediately and fled town at that same night. I'm about to tell you exactly what was in that envelope, but I need you to do something first. Comment your location and current time below. Let me know someone out there understands how terrifying this moment was. At 54, I thought I had life figured out. 25 years of marriage to Caroline, a daughter, Lily, and her final year of law school, and Sterling Estates, the legacy my grandfather started and my father built into an empire. I was wrong about having it figured out. Dead wrong. Sterling Estates was in my DNA, 3 generations of building up the city of Charlotte, one brick at a time. By the time I inherited the company after my father passed away 25 years ago, I knew exactly what kind of man I wanted to be. The kind my father was, solid, reliable, a man whose handshake was his bond. I met Caroline at a charity gala in February of 1999. She was 25, working as an event coordinator and new to Charlotte. I was 29, newly in charge of the massive company and drowning in loneliness after losing my father. Caroline was stunning, charming, and seemed genuinely captivated by every word I spoke. We were married by November. Lily arrived 2 years later. For 25 years, I thought we had constructed something unbreakable. Caroline advanced to become the director of public relations at a major hospitality group. Lily grew up in our Myers Park home, a brilliant kid who wanted to change the world. Law school at UNC Chapel Hill was her dream. She wanted to come back to Charlotte, maybe help manage the legal side of the business someday. That was the life I thought I had. But over the past few months, the foundation had shifted. Caroline had grown distant, constantly glued to her phone, always finding a reason to be somewhere else. The Tuesday evening that should have been my first red flag, I came home to a pitch-black house. Caroline was late due to a client emergency. Lily was at a study group. I ate leftover takeout alone in the dim kitchen light. When Caroline finally walked in around 9 p.m., she was distracted, checking her phone every 30 seconds. "Just work stuff," she muttered when I asked. "I'm exhausted." She went straight upstairs. I tried to suppress the gnawing feeling that my wife felt like a stranger living in my house. The following week, she brought it up over breakfast. Lily had already left for class. "Mark, we need to talk about something." I looked up from the newspaper. "Okay." "We're 50 and 54 now. We have Lily. She's practically grown." Caroline's voice was measured, reasonable. "I think you should consider a vasectomy. At our age, why risk complications? We don't need any surprises." The suggestion caught me off guard. We hadn't discussed this. We hadn't even talked about whether we wanted more kids or not. "I hadn't really thought about it," I said truthfully. "I have. I've been thinking about it a lot." She reached across the table, placing her manicured hand over mine. "There's an excellent doctor here in Charlotte, Dr. Richard Vance, highly recommended. He specializes in these procedures." Something about the way she said it made my stomach tighten. Not the suggestion itself, that was logical enough, but the efficiency of it. The fact that she had already researched the doctor, already had a name ready to go. "You've already looked into this?" I asked. "Just want what's best for us, for our future." She squeezed my hand, offering a warm smile. "Will you at least meet with him?" I looked at my wife, at the woman I had loved for a quarter of a century, at the face I thought I knew as well as my own. "Okay," I said, "I'll meet with him." Caroline smiled, a flash of victory in her eyes. "Thank you. I'll set up the appointment." Looking back, I can see all the signs I missed. The way she had orchestrated everything, the subtle relief in her eyes when I agreed, the fact that she had a doctor's name ready before I had even considered the idea. But at the time, I saw none of it. I saw my wife of 25 years, the mother of my daughter. The morning of the procedure arrived 2 weeks later, September 15th, a Tuesday. I remember it vividly because it was the last day I trusted my wife. Dr. Richard Vance came highly recommended. That should have been my first morning. Caroline drove us to City General Hospital at 7 a.m. She checked her phone constantly during the drive. Not unusual, she was always busy, but something about the frantic frequency felt different. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine, just nervous about you. You know I worry." At 8:15, we met Dr. Vance in a consultation room. He was 51, with steel gray hair, an expensive Swiss watch, and the kind of arrogant posture surgeons develop after years of playing God. He barely looked at me, directing most of his attention to Caroline. "The procedure is routine," he said smoothly. "General anesthesia, 45 minutes total, quick recovery." Caroline asked questions, a lot of questions, about the anesthesia, the recovery time, the risks. Vance answered each one with practiced brevity, his eyes locking with hers in a way that made something in my chest tighten. At 8:45, Nurse Sarah Jenkins came to take me to the operating room. She looked young, early 30s, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of exhaustion. Caroline kissed my forehead. "I'll be right here when you wake up." The operating room was freezing, sterile, bright lights overhead. Jenkins connected the monitors. The anesthesiologist placed a mask over my face. "Count backward from 10, Mr. Sterling." 10, 9, 8. The world went soft and dark. And then I was floating. Consciousness, but not full wakefulness. I could hear voices, but couldn't move, couldn't open my eyes. The anesthesia held me suspended, aware, but paralyzed. "Is his wife still in the waiting room?" Vance's voice cut through the silence, low and tense. "Yes, doctor," Nurse Jenkins replied, sounding uncertain. "Good. After we finish, give her this envelope. Don't let him see it. She knows it's coming." My heart rate spiked. I felt it, the surge of adrenaline, the spike of primal fear. But the monitors stayed quiet, or perhaps they were manipulated. The drugs kept my body completely still, even as my mind screamed in panic. "Doctor, I'm not comfortable with this," Jenkins started. "You're paid to assist, not to have opinions." Vance's voice turned sharp, cutting like a scalpel. "Give her the envelope when he's in recovery. Understood?" A pause. "Yes, doctor." I forced myself to stay motionless, to keep my breathing steady, to give no sign I had heard every treacherous word. The procedure continued. 30 minutes that felt like hours. My mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. What was in that envelope? Why did Caroline know it was coming? At 10:30, they wheeled me into recovery. I kept my eyes mostly closed, watching through slitted lids as Nurse Jenkins moved nervously, glancing at something in her scrub pocket. The envelope. Caroline appeared in the doorway. "Can I see him?" "He's still coming out of it," Jenkins said quickly. "Dr. Vance wanted to speak with you first. Consultation room 2, down the hall." "Perfect," Caroline said. "Perfect," I thought bitterly. "They think I'm still unconscious." After Caroline left, I forced my eyes open. "Water," I managed to croak. Jenkins jumped. "Mr. Sterling, you're awake earlier than expected." "Bathroom," I said, sitting up. My head spun dizzily from the anesthesia, but my mind was razor sharp. I moved to the small bathroom attached to the room and locked the door. From the narrow window, I could see directly into consultation room 2. Caroline sat alone at first, then Nurse Jenkins entered, placed an envelope on the table, and quietly left without a word. Caroline stared at it for a moment before picking it up with trembling hands. I watched her open it. Her face transformed. Shock, then something like dark satisfaction, then tears, but they weren't tears of sadness. I had been married to this woman for 25 years. I knew her tells. These were tears of relief. A moment later, Dr. Vance entered the room. He sat across from her, leaning forward. They spoke intensely. I couldn't hear through the glass. Then he reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. The gesture was too familiar, too intimate. His thumb stroked the back of her hand caressingly. She didn't pull away. This wasn't a doctor comforting a patient's wife. This was something else entirely. Genuine nausea hit me. The anesthesia, the betrayal, the fury. I vomited into the toilet. When I emerged, pale and shaking, Jenkins looked concerned. "Mr. Sterling, where's my wife?" "She just left. Emergency at work. She'll pick you up in 2 hours." Of course she did. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. There was only one person I could trust. I texted David, "I need you. Something is very wrong." 2 days after the surgery, September 17th, a Thursday afternoon, I sat across from David Thorne in his cluttered office above a pawn shop on 7th Street. We had been friends since we were 12 years old. If anyone could find the truth, it was him. David had spent 20 years in Army CID investigating everything from theft to homicide. Now he ran his own private investigation firm. The office smelled of stale coffee and old paper, exactly like you'd expect. Filing cabinets, maps pinned to walls. It was chaos, but organized chaos. "Tell me everything," David said. I did. The overheard conversation, the envelope, Nurse Jenkins's nervousness, watching through that bathroom window as Caroline opened it with trembling hands, those tears of relief. The way Vance entered afterward, touched her hand, how intimate it looked. David listened without interrupting. "You want me to investigate your wife and this doctor? I want to know what was in that envelope. I want to know why she's lying to me." David nodded slowly. "I can do that. But Mark, you need to stay completely calm at home. Act normal. Don't let her know you suspect anything." "I can do that." "Can you? Because this is going to get harder before it gets easier." I met his eyes. "I've been acting fine for 2 days already. I can keep doing it." That night, I went home, had dinner with Caroline like nothing had happened. She asked how I was feeling. I said better than expected. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and went upstairs to take a call. I cleaned up the kitchen and pretended my world wasn't falling apart. 48 hours later, September 19th, Saturday, at 2 in the afternoon, David called me back. "Come to the office." The change in him was immediate when I arrived. Papers covered his desk, photos, printouts. David looked like he hadn't slept. "Sit down," he said. He spread files across the desk. Dr. Richard Vance, age 51, previously worked at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta from 2016 to 2019. "Atlanta," I said. "He left in 2019, not voluntarily. Scandal involving a patient's wife. Nothing public, but my source says Vance was given a choice: resign quietly or face an ethics investigation." "What kind of scandal?" "The inappropriate kind. He resigned, moved to Charlotte, joined City General." David pulled out another document. "He owns a penthouse at the Pinnacle, $800,000, way above what a surgeon at a mid-tier medical center should afford." I dug into his financials. Vance has been receiving regular cash deposits, $7,500 here, $12,000 there, always just under the IRS reporting threshold. Money laundering, maybe. And these deposits started about 2 years ago. 2 years, not recent. No, this wasn't sudden. This is established, organized. David pulled out surveillance photos. Caroline entering the Pinnacle's parking garage, in the lobby, getting into an elevator. She's been there 3 times since your surgery: Monday evening, Tuesday afternoon, and Wednesday evening. Each visit lasted between 90 minutes and 3 hours. I stared at the photos. My wife walking into another man's building. "She's having an affair," I said. The words felt hollow, like dry ash in my mouth. David was quiet. "Maybe. But Mark, look at this pattern. The money started 2 years ago. Chris, there's something else, something you need to see. It's about Caroline's past." David opened a new folder and pushed it across the table between us. "I found this in the archives of the Atlanta Journal and Constitution from 26 years ago, August 1997. I pulled the folder closer. Inside was a newspaper clipping, yellowed at the edges but still legible. Social section. The headline read, "Beauty Caroline Blackwell announces engagement to Dr. Richard Vance." The photograph beneath stopped my breath. Caroline, 24 years old, wearing a champagne silk gown, standing beside a man in a tuxedo. Richard Vance, 28, his arm around his waist, both of them smiling at a charity gala in Atlanta. "That's impossible," I whispered. "She told me she came from Rhode Island." She said she'd never been to the South before Charlotte. David leaned back in his chair. She lied, Mark, about everything. He laid out more documents, a timeline reconstructed from public records and old society pages. August 1997, Caroline Blackwell and Dr. Richard Vance publicly announced their engagement. January 1998, the engagement was quietly called off. March 1998, Vance's wife, Eleanor, filed for divorce. The same month, rumors surfaced about Vance's inappropriate relationship with a patient's spouse. Emery asked him to resign. June 1998, Caroline Blackwell disappeared from Atlanta's social scene entirely. And then David pulled out another clipping, this one from the Charlotte Business Journal, December 1998. The headline, "Young Developer Inherits Sterling Corporation Following Father's Death." My own face stared back at me, 28 years old, grieving but determined. "She saw this," I said slowly. "She saw this article." "More than that," David replied. In January 1999, a woman named Caroline Blackwell was hired as an event coordinator for the Children's Hospital Charity Gala, the same gala where Sterling Estates was the lead sponsor. She chose me, I realized, feeling sick. Before we ever met, she knew who I was. She knew about the company, about my father dying, about the inheritance. She targeted me. David didn't argue. "And Vance," I asked, "where was he?" After leaving Emory in 1998, he moved to Spartanburg, South Carolina, kept a low profile. By 2019, he was clean enough to join City General in Charlotte. 2019, I repeated. The year felt significant. David pulled out one more document. Your life insurance policy. Mark, in February 2019, you updated your life insurance from $1 million to $3.5 million. Do you remember why? I thought back. Caroline suggested it. She said with Lily getting older, with college coming, we needed more coverage. It made sense. That same month, David said quietly, Richard Vance moved to Charlotte. The room tilted. 25 years. She had been lying to me for 25 years. Our entire marriage, our daughter, our home, every anniversary, every Christmas morning had been built on a foundation of deceit. Mark, David said, his voice gentle but firm, there's more, and this is the worst part. He reached for one final folder. City General Genetic Testing Report. Sample A, Mark Sterling. Sample B, Lily Sterling. Analysis, paternity testing. Result, probability of paternity, 0%. Conclusion, Mark Sterling is excluded as the biological father of Lily Sterling. I stared at the words. That's impossible. Lily is my daughter. I was there when she was born. I found this in Caroline's cloud storage. She had it done 6 weeks ago. 22 years, I said, my voice breaking. Every bedtime story, every school play. David let me sit with it for a moment. Then he slid more documents across the desk. Phone records, screenshots of text messages from a second phone Caroline kept hidden. Caroline to R. Vance. When will it be done? Vance to Caroline. Soon. The medical records are already in place. Be patient. Caroline to Vance. I'm tired of being patient. It's been 25 years, Richard. Vance to Caroline. The procedure is scheduled. After that, we wait for the right moment. The procedure was your vasectomy, David said. And look at these falsified documents, records indicating complications from your surgery, potential fertility issues, risk factors, all lies. Why? To make it look like you couldn't have children, so when Lily's paternity is questioned, these records explain it. But Mark, I ran a second test, independent lab. Lily is yours. The DNA test in the folder is fake. Caroline and Vance forged it. They're going to kill me, I said, the realization settling over me like a shroud. David didn't deny it. I don't remember driving home. One moment I was in David's office, the next I was pulling into my garage. The house was dark. Caroline was already in bed. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching her sleep. She looked peaceful, beautiful. The woman who had given me a daughter she claimed wasn't mine to cover her tracks. The woman who was planning to kill me. I climbed into bed beside her, careful not to wake her. She shifted slightly, unconsciously moving closer to me. That night, I lay awake in the dark, listening to her breathe, and I realized I had no idea who she was. I never had. 1 week later, I drove 4 hours to Atlanta. David had arranged a meeting with Eleanor Davis, the woman who used to be Eleanor Vance. I met her at a coffee shop in Virginia Highland. She was 49, elegant, but her eyes carried deep exhaustion. "You have the same look I had 26 years ago, the look of someone who's just realized they've been played." She confirmed everything, the affair, the public humiliation. "Richard never forgives, Mr. Sterling, never. In his mind, Caroline and I conspired to destroy him back then. He blames us for his lost career. If they're working together now, Caroline wants the money, but Richard, he wants revenge on everyone." She warned me about a sister. Caroline has a sister, Melissa, a forensic accountant. If they are running a long con, she's handling the money. Watch for shell companies. The next evening, Friday, September 29th, David called. "Get here now. I've connected everything." When I arrived, his office looked like a war room. Red strings connected evidence on a massive board. "I found the money," David said. "A shell company called Blackwell Consulting LLC. Operators C. Blackwell and M. Kaufman. Melissa Kaufman, Caroline's sister. They had siphoned nearly $500,000 over the years, but the end game was the insurance payout and the sale of the company. Between the insurance and the sale of the company, Caroline walks away with over $15 million. And here's the medical trap. Vance has been building a fake medical history for you for 3 years. He's setting up a medical accident, complications from your vasectomy leading to a fatal event, a fall, a heart attack, something that looks natural given the documented stress on your system." "And Lily?" I asked. David hesitated, then pulled up an email. "Caroline to Vance. When everything is settled, we send Elle to boarding school in Europe. $200K should keep her quiet. She's collateral damage, but necessary. She'll adapt." Vance's reply: "Agreed. The daughter is not my problem." Collateral damage. They were going to discard my daughter like trash. A cold fury, different from anything I'd ever felt, settled over me. It wasn't hot rage, it was calculating and icy. "What are you going to do?" David asked. I stood up and looked at the board. "We're going to give them exactly what they want. A perfect opportunity to act. And when they make their move, we'll have them on record confessing everything." Friday evening, October 13th, we were ready. David had bribed the maintenance supervisor at the Pinnacle to let us install cameras and audio devices in Vance's penthouse. We also had Detective John Morrison of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police involved. He had been chasing Vance for years. At 5:30 p.m., I called Caroline. "Honey, I have to work late. Big meeting. Won't be home until 11. "Oh." Her voice was too bright. "Okay, I'll just rest." By 7 p.m., she was letting herself into Vance's penthouse. I sat in the surveillance van with David and Detective Morrison, watching the screen. Caroline and Vance kissed, a passionate, possessive kiss. I felt nothing. The man who loved her was dead. They sat on the sofa. Caroline poured wine. "How much longer, Richard? I'm tired of pretending." "Patience, darling. The medical records are perfect. We just need the right moment. An accident, a fall at a construction site, a heart attack from overexertion. The autopsy will match the records I've created." "And the money?" "Between the workers' comp and the $3.5 million policy, plus the company's sale, around $18 million. Caroline laughed, a chilling, joyful sound. "Finally, we deserve it." "What about Lily?" Caroline asked. "She's collateral damage," Vance said coldly. "We send her to Zurich. By the time she's 25, we'll be in Costa Rica." "That's enough," Morrison said, grabbing his radio. "Clear conspiracy to commit murder. Go, go, go." We rode the elevator up. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. Morrison banged on the door. "Police, open up." When the door opened, Vance tried to play it cool, but Caroline's face drained of color when she saw me standing behind the officers. "Chris?" she stammered. "What is this?" "It's over, Caroline," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "I heard everything. The fake DNA test, the insurance, the collateral damage, all of it." "You can't do this," she screamed as they handcuffed her. "Lily is my daughter." "And she is mine," I said, stepping closer. "The real DNA test proved it. You failed." As they dragged her away, she screamed that Lily would never forgive me. She was almost right. That night, I called Lily. She had already spoken to Caroline from jail. Caroline had spun a web of lies, that I was abusive, that I framed her. Lily hung up on me. For 8 weeks, my daughter wouldn't speak to me. She stayed with a friend, hired a lawyer for her mother, and visited Caroline in jail. I wrote her a 6-page letter explaining everything, but I didn't force her to read it. I knew if I forced the truth, I'd lose her forever. I spent Thanksgiving alone, staring at the empty chair where my daughter should have been. It was the darkest time of my life, worse than the betrayal itself. The silence in the house was deafening, a constant reminder of how money and greed can rot the soul of a family. Then, on December 8th, Lily went to David's office. She had found an old phone of her mother's hidden in a drawer, with texts dating back to 2019, texts that proved the premeditation. She listened to the recordings. She heard her mother call her collateral damage. On December 12th, Lily visited Caroline in jail. She asked one question: "Did you ever love us?" Caroline tried to lie, but eventually the mask slipped. She blamed me for being an easy mark. She admitted the plan was to send Lily away. Lily walked out and never looked back. 3 days later, I heard the front door open. "Dad?" I ran to the hallway. Lily stood there, bags at her feet, eyes swollen. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I didn't believe you."
We cried together. We rebuilt our lives, slowly. The trial took place 8 months later. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury heard the tapes, saw the financial records, and the fake medical reports. Vance got 25 years. Caroline got 18. Her sister got 8. 1 year after the trial, I stood on the rooftop of the new Sterling Estates headquarters with Lily. She was 23 now, a law school graduate. "I'm handing the company to you in 5 years," I told her. "Why me?" she asked. "Because legacy isn't what I build, it's what I pass on. You have integrity, Lily. You chose the truth." We looked out over the city. I was 55, scarred but standing. I had almost lost everything because I trusted blindly, but I had gained something stronger, a bond with my daughter forged in fire. So here I am, sharing this story on this channel, not for sympathy, but as a warning. Trust but verify. Love deeply, but keep your eyes open. Predators study their prey, and sometimes the predator is sleeping right beside you.